Anti-personnel landmines. As most of you probably know, landmines are explosive containers placed beneath the ground designed to detonate when contacted by a person. Some of these can contain explosive charges of up to 14 kilograms. Initially, they were strategically placed and targeted at military objectives. However, in the 1960s, U.S. bombing runs in Laos saw thousands of mines being dropped by plane, an estimated $2 million worth of drones being dropped each day. This is just one instance of mass use of mines. Today, there is an estimated 110 million mines scattered in 64 countries across the world. So what are the effects? Let's talk about the direct effects first. The direct effects of landmines are the effects caused directly by the detonation of a landmine. In other words, mine fragments or the acceleration of an object such as a wall, tree, etc. caused by the explosion of a mine. They can include physical or emotional effects such as PTSD, but let's just focus on the physical effects. Between 1980 and 1995, there were 600,000 landmine-related casualties in Afghanistan. That's 1 out of every 50 Afghan people. Half of these casualties were fatal and the other half remained disabled with their injuries. Looking worldwide, there are 10,000 deaths per year due to direct injury caused by landmines. There are 20,000 injured. Out of those injured, 33.7% are dying in hospital. The average number of days spent in the hospital is 22.1 days, and 36.6% of those injured require blood transfusions. Let's not forget that the areas with the most mines, such as Afghanistan, Cambodia, Iraq, and Laos, may not have access to healthcare the same way we do in North America. Landmine victims require skilled surgery, large amounts of blood, drugs, and prosthetic devices, along with physical therapy. Patterns have shown that if 4% of a hospital's admissions are landmine victims, they tend to utilize 25% of the hospital's resources and surgical services. Landmines also have severe environmental impacts that reduce the ability of the community to operate, which leads us into their indirect effects. Indirect effects can be defined as the effects on a population as a result of mines in the area that may not have necessarily detonated. In other words, the effects of the landmine that don't involve explosion or the acceleration of an object. Landmines placed near agricultural land or water canals decreases farming activities and causes food scarcity along with malnutrition diseases. Explosives placed near forests with access to drinking water result in the consumption of contaminated water and gives rise to waterborne diseases such as diarrhea. Mobile vaccination teams avoid areas with roads and public access areas that have been mined. This increases the prevalence of 6 childhood killer diseases such as tetanus, tuberculosis, measles, and whooping cough. The increased demand for blood transfusion required by those with severe injuries such as amputated limbs increases the risk of contaminated blood transfusion diseases such as HIV and malaria. Landmines placed in the roads between villages prevent trade of vital resources such as food and can force citizens of the area to rely on local food. In areas where landmines are most prevalent, this may not be ideal because many communities rely on the import of food to avoid the issue of iodine-deficient foods. So what can be done? There are many mine-clearing agencies throughout the world. While their efforts should certainly be praised, they're mostly in vain. At the present rate of mine clearance, it will take more than 1,000 years to clear the estimated 110 million scattered, and that's assuming no more are planted. In 1993, 100,000 mines were cleared, but 2 million more were planted. There needs to be an outright ban on the use of landmines. Fortunately, in 1997, the Anti-Personnel Landmine Convention banned the stockpiling, transfer, and use of anti-personnel landmines. It requires countries under the agreement to clear them on their territory and also prescribes them to assist affected countries if they are in position to do so. Currently, there are 133 signatory states under this convention, and Canada was one of the first on this list. But 133 is not enough, and notably, the United States is absent from this list. All countries need to be a part of this in order to stop the role that landmines play as a wrench in the gears in developing countries on their path to sustainable futures. Like the UN National Security Secretary General said, landmines may be the most widespread, lethal, and long-lasting form of pollution we have yet encountered.